Hi, my name is Jason Bingley and I'm doing this presentation on leadership for MCAA 530, Ethics in Sport. The reason I chose leadership is because I feel in today's society it's an area that a lot of people assume just because they become a teacher or a coach or in a position of business that they automatically become a leader, versus the skills that are actually needed to be taught and learned over a period of time, in which I feel a lot of people don't really spend that time becoming a lifelong learner on how to become an effective leader. So some of the things I'm going to go over today are going to be some of the things that I feel are important in making an effective leader when looking at leadership. So the first slide that I have is kind of about definition of leadership. And this is kind of a quote I found from Sheryl Sandberg, who's a COO of Facebook. And she has this quote that says, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence." To me, that is a great definition because, again, when you are absent, do your athletes, your students, or whoever you're dealing with in a position of leadership, do they respond and maintain those characters or those standards that you tried to teach over a period of a season or a semester or a year at work, and see if those lessons that you've tried to taught them have truly impacted them in a positive manner. There's also this other great quote that I like that says leaders are by definition change makers. When you are called to lead, you are called to advance and move forward and improve the situation. And as you see in many of these different leaders, they all were called forward to make change, whether it be in politics and economics and social issues and religious areas, or just cultural change. Many of them had to make uncomfortable decisions in order to improve and advance and to change the people that they were trying to influence. So I think those are two great definitions when it comes to looking at leadership. Now, when it comes to looking at some of the top qualities of what I feel are an effective leader, the first big one that I'm big on is this one here on communication. It's one of the biggest things I've learned in the past 4 or 5 years is your ability to communicate with your athletes, with your students, and kind of just be open with them about your expectations of them, kind of where you feel they belong in certain roles or so forth within a classroom or on a team. When you do that with them, they are a lot more accepting of those roles. Not everyone, if it was on a basketball court, can be a starter, can be the starting point guard. Some guys have to take on that tough challenge of being a bench player and someone who can't get in there. But if you communicate to them your expectations and kind of let them know going into the season, they'll probably have a better understanding of their role. Second big point there is confidence. I think as a leader, you have to exude confidence. You have to show that if you trust me and go through the processes that I try to teach or that we try to teach as a coaching staff, that hopefully you will come out more successful and be a better person and better athlete based on the stuff that we're trying to teach. Third point is positivity. It's probably one of the toughest things, I think, for leaders to do is because we always face the challenges, and a lot of times as leaders we deal with the negative aspects of running a team, being in a classroom environment, being in business. We always deal with the negative. So trying to be positive for stuff can really make, and especially making people positive and feeling positive about the work that you're doing as a leader and the work that they're doing underneath you, I think is really important. Fairness, obviously, I think to me that's pretty straightforward. I try to treat all my athletes and students and kind of let them know that they have a clean slate at the beginning of every season or every semester, that we should hold grudges, and that our job as leaders is to be fair to people. Along the same lines with that is honesty. I think you have to be honest with the people that you work with. As a coach, I'm usually very honest and forthcoming to my players, saying, hey, like, you need to work on a certain skill, a certain aspect, improving your communication on the court, whatever type of thing I'm looking for. If you can't be honest with those people, they probably won't end up respecting you as much. Sometimes they may not like what you say, but they'll at least have to respect your opinion. And then commitment and inspiring, I kind of like to put them together because commitment to me is what is the truly aspect about being a part of a team. If you don't give commitment to yourself and to your teammates or whoever you're working with, then the whole foundation of the team will fall apart. So I think the role of the leader there is to be inspiring, to try to show some type of passion that gets people to maybe want to follow you or want to work with you to achieve some type of team goal. And if you can inspire them, hopefully they'll take that type of quality not only into the athletic field that they're playing on or in the classroom, but into their daily lives. And then the last one is humility. I think as leaders you have to be humble. You have to be willing sometimes to make mistakes and admit to those mistakes. Because if you don't take chances, how are you ever going to know if something worked out or if something were to maybe improve your team, improve something in your classroom environment or whatever. So sometimes being humble is a very important feature for a leader. Now, why is leadership important to me? Because I kind of felt when I was growing up as a young man, teenager, in the area that I live in Greater Vancouver, Canada, I really didn't have a lot of strong positive role models in my life. So it kind of flustered me at a young age, 13, 14, 15 years of age, where I didn't really have that positive role model to provide me some type of direction, to communicate any of my thoughts or feelings of maybe about where my passions were, either academically or on the playing field, or athletic playing field, or to have someone to speak to learn from not only my experiences, but from their experiences. Because a lot of times, that male positive role model who was been an older probably could have guided me and said, hey, here's some experiences that I've had, and here were the outcomes when I made decisions based on those types of experiences. The other major reason why I feel leadership is really important to teach not only in my classroom but to my athletes is because as men especially, we are kind of brought up to believe that showing emotions is not really something of masculinity or showing great strength. It's kind of a weakness. We never or almost rarely ever talk about our feelings or our life situations with other men because it's viewed as a weakness. We are kind of taught to keep it inside. So I kind of want to, through my leadership style, is to start having those conversations with my students and with my athletes. Every day I usually start my practice with some type of life skill lesson. We're not even talking about basketball. We're going through and talking about dealing with issues of adversity, how to become a better communicator, how to deal with problems on the court and how they can relate into life, how to deal when you maybe have an issue with the referee, how do you handle those types of things, or when a call doesn't go your way. You can't sit there and be upset. And I feel that one of the big things I'm trying to over the past couple of years is to bring in those life skills more and more and more into my practices, into my pre-game talks, into my post-game talks, and just my one-on-one conversations with players. So hopefully they can kind of use the sport of basketball as a jumping stone to learn those life skills that they can take with them going forward. The other reason I want to kind of focus on leadership is because having kind of just talked about what we did with kind of how men kind of hide their feelings a lot of times, is I want to kind of break this cycle and make it and kind of show and promote to young men that it's okay to kind of talk about your feelings and to, again, learn how to use experiences through being coached by me through the sport of basketball so that they can learn the life skills from the sport. Because again, every sport we know, you're going to face difficult challenges, adversity, having problems with teammates, problems with other opponents or coaches, and how they can kind of learn how to hopefully learn life skills from me and take those life skills and then use those as they become young men and graduate high school and go to college and become boyfriends or fathers or whatever they're going to do in their work environment so that they can take those skills going forward. The other big thing I think that's important with leadership is to kind of look at the issue as the coach yourself. If you want to promote leadership, you have to kind of exemplify it to your athletes or to your students. Your athletes evaluate you all the time, whether you're on the court, in practice, traveling with the team somewhere, overnight tournament and staying in a hotel. Your players are always going to evaluate how you act. Because the big thing is, how can you expect your athletes to follow your standards if you yourself don't set those standards as kind of a leading by example? So the big thing, I think, as a leader that we have to do is be consistent in how you show your character. Not only in the good times, because that's when it's extremely easy, but in those bad and adverse times, how do you deal with adversity? And again, to me, that's one of the most important lessons that athletes can hopefully learn from my type of leadership style as a coach, is that how do you deal with the bad times? I always tell my team all the time that when you are down, you have to work even harder. When you face adversity, you have to work even harder and longer to get out of that, to give yourself an opportunity to get away from adversity. Now, when I'm looking at the issue of quality of character, that's kind of the whole premise of this PowerPoint and this assignment. I wanted to answer, why is it important? And I was kind of thinking about my own athletic experiences, and most of us have probably had these when we were kids. We all remember those coaches that for us were role models. They were the ones out there giving support, kind of giving you the pat on the shoulder, kind of giving you a great pep talk. They would teach you the technical skills, but they always kind of did it in a positive manner. And I think that's why the quality of character is so important, because if you have those type of experiences, you probably want to continue playing the sport. You probably want, and you'll probably absorb some of that information, and it probably becomes a part of your character. Versus when we've all had those type of coaches that get in your face, are very negative, they scream and yell at you, and you almost feel like they belittle you. I remember having an experience like that when I played soccer at the age of 12 or 13, and eventually because of that coach, I quit the sport. And I kind of look back at it now going, geez, I wonder how far I could have gone in soccer if I'd maybe had a different coach that year. And it shows you the impact that coaches have on athletes, whether they are going to continue in a sport, but also more importantly, kind of again, the quality of the character. What are we teaching kids? What is appropriate behavior in dealing with youth? Whether it be, and again, in the good times or the bad. So the example of the quality of character that I want to talk about is from a book, is John Wooden. I've recently read one of his books on leadership, and it's probably been one of the most profound books that I've read in the past 10 or 15 years. And he has this great quote, and it says, "That is what I love so dearly about leadership. Over and over again, it allowed me the privilege of building and being a part of a special family called a team." He is probably one of the most respected, not only basketball coaches in NCAA history, but he's probably also viewed as one of the greatest leaders in kind of just North American culture. He's written quite a few books. Business people go to him, political people have gone to him and asked for his viewpoints on leadership. And this quote here, though, just to me kind of shows you how much he enjoyed the privilege of having the opportunity to work with young men and not only kind of build and mold them as basketball players, but more importantly, he builded and molded them as young men. If you go back and look at all the men that he coached, so many of them talk mostly more about the life skills that they learned from him rather than the basketball. And to me, that shows that he had a great quality of character and that he was a great leader. One of the things I wanted to really point out from John Wooden is he has this kind of example of quality of character, which is called competitive greatness. And his whole philosophy was that you are to be at your best when your best is needed. He never really focused on the score. He always looked at the process. He always understood that the process is greater than the result and that your character drives your process. And by having this philosophy of being at your best when your best is needed, he had the ability to get people to do things that they didn't think they were able to achieve. And more importantly, he created this standard which was higher than winning. It was never looking at the score. He would be happy if he went and lost a game, but he knew that his athletes gave their best and that they tried their best at those times when their best was needed. He never focused on the result. He always looked at the outcome. He does have this great quote, too, about competitive greatness that's from his book that I read, and it kind of always stuck with me. And the quote says, "There's more pleasure in being involved in something that is difficult than there is in being something that anybody else could do. Most of our daily tasks, you or I could do. They're easy, but there's no joy in those. But there's joy in being involved in something that is difficult." When you talk to a lot of great leaders, I know recently Kobe Bryant retired and he talked about living the dream. And he goes, for him, living the dream wasn't about winning the championships or getting the personal MVP awards. It was about the dream of getting into the gym, working on my skill, working on the process. That, again, is preparing so that you can be at your best when your best is needed. And that's why I think John Wooden is such a great example of a quality of character. And the things that he defined, again, is more important than the wins or losses, is how he built his men in terms of not only athletes, but as young men. There's this poem by Grantland Rice. He used to be a big-time sports writer back in the 40s and 50s. And I felt this was appropriate, kind of looking at leadership, because it kind of talks about some of the characteristics that leaders hopefully should want to have, because when you're facing adversity, how some people will crumble, but true leaders will take that on as a challenge. So he goes on to saying, "Beyond the winning and the goal, beyond the glory and the fame, he feels the flame within his soul. Born of the spirit of the game, and where the barriers may wait, built upon by the opposing gods, he finds the thrill in bucking fate, and writing down the endless odds. Where others wither in the fire, or fall below some raw mishap, where others lag behind or tire, and break beneath the handicap, he finds a new, deeper thrill to take him to the uphill spin, because the test is greater still, and something he can revel in." And again, to me, that kind of encompasses what I think most of us would want in a leader, is that when you face those difficult times, that person is willing to take on that challenge. And when you take on those challenges and you get outside your comfort zone, you grow, not only in terms of your personal growth, your academic growth, your educational growth, whatever type of growth you're looking at, but you are pushing yourself to become a better person. And that's why I think that's such a great kind of poem, kind of talking about how leaders want to encompass and facing adversity. The last thing I'll kind of go back looking at John Wooden is, again, this to me shows the quality of his character when he goes on to say, "I am a lucky man. I am a teacher. I believe that teaching and coaching may be perhaps the most rewarding job on earth, perhaps the most important next to being a parent." If you grew up playing any type of youth sports, most of us would probably agree with this statement. Next to our parents, we probably remember our favorite teachers, our favorite coaches, and the impacts that they've had on us as young people. And as we've grown into adulthood, and we've probably taken a lot of the characteristics that they've taught us and probably now encompass them into our own lives. And just a quick side note too, this is another quote that I was reading from another book on leadership, and it's from Pat Summitt, who's an NCAA Hall of Fame basketball women's coach. And this was, I found, really, really important. It's something that I've been trying to kind of indulge in and kind of invest into my own coaching career, is this philosophy here. And what she says is, as much as the X's and O's are kind of important, the players really care that they know that you care. They just want to know that you care. So again, it's not, sometimes, yeah, as a coach, you have to know the technical skills, the insides and outs of a sport. But if you really want your players to play for you, they have to know you care about them. And I feel that's a really great example when you're looking at leadership as a definition and the quality of character that you would want in a leader. Now, kind of looking at how to apply the quality of character into the role in the leader of athletics. And I found this quote, and to me it's a great connection to that question. And it's a quote from John Quincy Adams, and he says, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, and become more, you are a leader." And I think as a coach, that's all we can really hopefully want to have happen to our athletes. Hopefully, as a coach, I am teaching them to dream more, to go out and work on becoming a better basketball player, to becoming a better young man, to become a better student, to become a better citizen in our community and within our school. That they learn more. Again, I always talk to them about the importance of being a smart student, because smart students tend to be smarter basketball players. And to do more and become more. Like again, I challenge them all the time. It's not just about what they do on the court, it's about things that they do outside of the basketball, whether it be relationships with their friends, with their families, with a potential boyfriend or girlfriend. Depending upon, again, who the person is, I think a leader really needs to make sure that if you can inspire people to do something and create change to make themselves better, you're doing a really good job in terms of not only molding them athletically, but more importantly, socially and emotionally. Now, here's a video that I want to kind of show on leadership. And again, there's the quote that we talked about earlier, and I want you to kind of remember this. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. This video is about a football team that's smaller, not as talented football team, and I like it because my basketball team is one of the youngest, smallest teams in our district, and we're always playing against these really big, tall, tough, competitive teams. And one of the biggest challenges I find is trying to make sure that our guys always have that belief that they can win and that they can do things that they don't think they can do. And this is a video clip from the movie Facing Giants where the coach tries to bring forward that point. So I will go ahead, step out, and show you the video.
So, Coach, how strong is Westview this year?
A lot stronger than we are.
You already written Friday night down as a loss, Brock?
Well, not if I knew we could beat them.
Come here, Brock. You too, Jeremy.
What, am I in trouble now?
Not yet. I want to see you do the death crawl again, except I want to see your absolute best.
What, you want me to go to the 30?
I think you go to the 50.
50. I can go to the 50 if nobody's on my back.
I think you can do it with Jeremy on your back. But even if you can, I want you to promise me you're going to do your best.
All right.
Your best.
Okay.
You going to give me your best?
I'm going to give you my best.
All right, one more thing. I want you to do it blindfolded.
Why?
Because I want you giving up at a certain point when you can go further. Get down. Jeremy, get on his back. I did a good tight hold, Jeremy. All right, let's go, Brock. Keep your knees off the ground, just your hands and feet. There you go. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go. Show me good effort. That way, Brock. You keep coming. There you go. It's a good start. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go, Brock. Good strength. That's it, Brock. That's it.
But
best. You keep going. That's it. No, don't stop, Brock. You got more in you than that.
Hey, Dad. Just resting a second.
You gotta keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left. There you go. Keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving. Your very best. Your very best. Your very best. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. Don't quit on it. Keep going. Keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. That's it. Your very best. Don't quit on it. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving. Don't quit till you got nothing left. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. I want everything you got. Come on, keep going. It hurts. Don't quit on it. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go.
He's heavy.
I know he's heavy.
If I had strength.
And you negotiate with your body to find more strength, but don't you give up on me, Brock. You keep going, you hear me? You keep going. You're doing good. You keep going. Do not quit on me. You keep going. I know it hurts. You keep going. You keep going. It's all art from here. 30 more steps. You keep going, Brock. Come on. Keep going. Burn. And let it burn. It's all art. You keep going, Brock. Come on. Come on. Keep going. You promised me your best. Your best. Don't stop. Keep going. Too hard. It's not too hard. You keep going. Come on, Brock. Give me more. Give me more. Keep going. 20 more steps. 20 more. Keep going, Brock. Give me your best. Don't quit. No. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Brock Kelly, you don't quit. Keep going. Keep going. Go, Brock Kelly. You don't quit on me. No, you keep going. You keep going. Go, Brock. 10 more steps. 10 more. 10 more. 10 more. Keep going. Don't quit. Give me your heart. Oh, you can. You can. 5 more. 5 more. Come on, Brock. Come on. Don't quit. Don't quit. Come on, Brock. 2 more. 1 more. Look up, Brock. You're in the end zone. Brock, you are the most influential player on this team. If you walk around defeated, so will they. Don't tell me you can't give me more than what I've been seeing. You just carried a 140-pound man across this whole field in your arms. Brock, I need you. God's gifted you with the ability of leadership. Don't waste it.
Coach?
Can I count on you?
Yes. Coach?
What is it, Jeremy?
I want a 160.
To me, that there exemplifies how a coach can drive an athlete to do things bigger, better, stronger, and things that they never thought they could do. And you can't tell me that him pushing him like that athletically on the practice field isn't going to shape that young man's life in terms of the character that he is now going to see that he can overcome and take on bigger challenges that he may never have thought he could have faced. So kind of wrapping things up, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a philosophy on leadership. And this is a great quote from a textbook that I used from last semester, and it talks about kind of building a philosophy on leadership. And it goes on to say, philosophy to me means the pursuit of wisdom. It helps us answer fundamental questions about what, why, and how. Our philosophies determine the way we view objects, experience in our lives, as well as the way we view people and our relationships with them. Our philosophies also determines the values that we hold. The philosopher Ephesus said this quote, and I think it's really important: The beginning of philosophy is to know the condition of one's own mind. And to me that brings about the point of that if you want to be an effective leader, you have to be a lifelong learner. And as I've gotten more experienced into my coaching career, that's one of the biggest things I've kind of taken on as a challenge for myself, is to continually learn. Not only the technical aspects of the sport, but again, learning how to become a better leader as a basketball coach and as a teacher in the classroom. Kind of continuing on with that point too, there's this other quote that's from one of the textbooks we're using this semester, and they kind of bring about what is the goal of leadership. And the three authors come about with this point: leadership that is directed toward a mission of excellence in which all the individuals involved are better human beings for the experience. What better quote, I think, to kind of wrap up what I want to talk about than, again, being involved and making people better human beings from the experience of being with each other. I think to me that's an extremely important aspect of you can be an effective leader. To kind of close it up, looking at what we just said there, this is from a movie called Coach Carter, which is a real life story about I think South Los Angeles basketball coach named Ken Carter, who overtook a basketball team that's from a very low social economic area in Los Angeles. The players on the team were all failing academically. They had a rich tradition 20, 30 years ago, and he used to be an alumni from that school. That's how he's kind of come back and taken on this role of leadership, but he faced a bunch of adversity. He faced pushback from the players in terms of them having to get better grades. He faced pushback from the players in his very disciplined style of coaching. This here is the speech that they had after they had lost their playoff game in the end of the season. But to me, again, it encompasses what a leader does when maybe you don't fully achieve your goals, but again, it's about the process of working to achieve that goal, which actually is more important than the goal itself. So I'll quickly just turn off the lights here and we'll watch what Coach Carter says to his team after they've lost their final game of the season.
Oh, well, not quite the storybook ending, huh? Not for us anyway. But you men played like champions. You never gave up. And champions hold their heads high. What you achieved goes way beyond the win-loss column or what's going to be written on the front page of the sports section tomorrow. You've achieved something that some people spend their whole lives trying to find. What you achieved is that ever-elusive victory within. And gentlemen, I am so proud of you. 4 months ago, when I took the job at Richmond, I had a plan. That plan failed. I came to coach basketball players, and you became students. I came to teach boys, and you became men. And for that, I thank you. If someone walked in this door right now and offered me a coaching job at any school in the state of California, you know which team I'd choose?
St. Francis.
Can you?
Richmond?
Rich what?
Richmond.
Rich what?
Richmond.
Rich what?
Richmond.
Where we from?
Richmond.
What's my hometown?
Richmond.
What we love?
Richmond.
So again, to me, that's a great, great scene showing the quality of the character of the coach. He mentioned nothing about the X's and O's of the game. He focused on the quality of the character of these young men. And as a leader, that's one of the biggest things I'm learning that I feel is a lot more important than winning games, winning tournaments, winning championships. Is in 10 or 15 years, I hope my athletes come back to me and talk more about the things they learned from me in terms of life skills than coming back and talk to me about, oh, do you remember winning this basketball game? Do you remember when I made this shot? I want them to come back and see me in 15 and 20 years and hear that they are great young men, that they're great husbands, that they're great fathers, that they're great leaders in their community, that maybe they've taken on a position of leadership, whether it be at work or maybe themselves getting into coaching to inspire the next generation of athletes. So kind of in conclusion, the last thing I wanted to talk about leadership was looking at this point here. To me, leadership isn't just about what you accomplish. It's not about how many district championships or state championships or whatever type of accomplishments you're looking for. To me, it's more about the people that you inspire and what those people do because you've inspired them. As a coach, if I can inspire my athletes to become, again, better young men and better leaders on the court, in the classroom, and in our community, I feel that I'm doing a small part to hopefully positively influence those young men as they go on into the next phase of their career. So I thank you for your time and listening to my presentation, and I hope you found it somewhat useful. Again, some things to reflect upon, and again, just to start the conversation. And I think that's a big, important aspect of this PowerPoint, is to start the conversation. And again, that's one of the things my goal was, is again, start these conversations with young men so that they become the next generation of leaders, not only in the sport of basketball, but within the community that we live in. So I thank you.